Hello everyone, my name is George and I am a physiotherapist here at the Pain Centre of Excellence. I'm sorry I can't be there with you today. However, I am going to talk you through the first education topic of your 2-week program, and that is all about making sense of pain. So you can stick with me throughout this presentation. You will have a copy of what I'm talking about. So if you're someone that wants to make notes, feel free to absolutely do that as we go along. There will be times where we might play a video or might ask some questions, and so Christy will be on hand to be able to facilitate that as well. So it might be on some of your minds as to what are we actually going to do here over the next 2 weeks. And so part of this presentation is also to help set some expectations of what the next 2 weeks are going to look like for you. So it's worth thinking to yourself, if you haven't been to a pain program before, it's normal to have this sense of, what am I doing here? You might also have some skepticism about what we do here, especially if you've tried lots and lots of things before this, which hasn't worked, which by the way is quite common, and we will talk on that in this education session. So hopefully Christy would have talked you through the fact that we have both education sessions and we have movement sessions. And the reason being is because there is so much that goes into your own pain experience, and so much about recovery is about understanding more about yourself, your pain, and what is going to work for you going forwards. All right. So you're going to see this slide a lot over the next 2 weeks, and this is essentially kind of like our ground rules in the program for you and for us. So number one is confidentiality. So we absolutely respect what you say during this program, and what you say is confidential. So we do have a weekly meeting where all the staff members will come together and we will discuss your case individually, and we will talk about basically how you're going and if there's anything else that we can help you with on your journey here at Spend Love. If there's anything that you don't want us to bring to that meeting, please let us know. And likewise, if you have anything personal that you think would benefit the rest of the staff members, but you don't want to discuss it in a group, please find a facilitator after one of these sessions and let them know about that. And then the second part of that then is talking about emotional boundaries. So we are in a pain program and we are in a group. And so prior to asking real personal information, if you could think to yourself, okay, is this helpful for the group environment? And if it isn't, don't just keep it to yourself. Please write it down. And then as soon as the session finishes, go up to the facilitator and then please ask those types of questions. Okay, great. So today what we're going to look at is 4 things really. So 1, why do we have pain? 2, we're going to look at what is acute pain versus what is persistent pain or chronic pain. This is really important because acute pain is going to need a different treatment approach and a whole different philosophy compared to persistent pain. But I'm not going to have any spoilers yet. And then we're going to talk about a long word that took me a while to grasp called the biopsychosocial model. And that is how we have built this whole 2-week program. So it's important for you to know what that is so that you know what you're going to expect over the next 2 weeks and more. Then at the end, we'll do a short summary just to round everything up from there. When we talk about pain science is always changing. I've been working in this field and doing pain education for a number of years now, and my talks and the evidence is always changing. So I've left a couple of resources up there that I've used to make this presentation. But if you are someone who wants to learn more, who's curious and eager to have a bit more information or has questions around their pain, I would highly recommend Retrain Pain, so the one in purple, and that's retrainpain.org and the painrevolution.org. These are 2 amazing websites that give you really digestible, friendly, but sound information around pain. And remember, the more that you can know about pain, the better off you're going to be because you're going to make better decisions going forwards. All right, awesome. So, what is the role of pain? Pain is our primary form of protection. We have, as humans, been evolved over years and years and years to have pain at the forefront of our protection. And so if we were walking in the savannah thousands of years ago and we tripped up and we hurt our knee, we would have pain there to tell us, okay, something is wrong, there's a warning there, and I need to do something about it. I'm going to come on to what happens if we don't have pain in a moment. But you're going to hear this word protection a lot over the next 2 weeks because pain is one form of protection, but there are a lot of other things that your body, your brain, and your nervous system will do to protect you. For example, if you're sat there now and you have back pain and you feel like your back is locking up, or if you go to bend over and your muscles lock, or if you have neck pain, you might feel tense and guarded, that is another way that your body is protecting you, through tensing and guarding. So there are lots of different ways that over time, your body will protect you when it feels like there's enough threat. So over the next 2 weeks, we're going to find how is your body protecting you. The second part of pain then is once it's done protecting us, it's then going to help us to promote healing. So think to yourself, have you ever sprained an ankle? Now, when I'm there in person, I usually get most of the people say yes to that example, me included. Some no, and I go, wow, you're lucky. But think about when you sprain your ankle, when you roll it, what happens to the area? And if you remember, what happens is that area swells up, it changes color, it might go purple if you've done a really good job. It's going to be hot, it's going to be throbbing, right? And that's because your body goes through a healing process. So all of our injuries that we occur are going to go through a healing process, and that involves inflammation. And we have, with that healing process, we have pain there to stop us making this worse. So if you think back to the time where you really badly sprained your ankle, you're not going to wake up the next day and say, oh, the weather's nice, I'm going to go for a run. No, you're going to be lifting it up, you're going to be protecting it, you're going to be limping, you're going to be using crutches, and that is because pain is going to stop you doing that. Now, this part is quite important, and this is the definition of pain. So pain is an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience, and that's associated with actual or potential tissue damage. Now, when I first heard that, I was like, what the hell does that even mean? And that's a proper bit of a word vomit there. But it's important, and we've put different words in different colors. So I want to just put your attention onto two of the words there, and that's sensory and emotional. So with pain, we have a sensory experience to pain. And what that means is that we can feel it. Now that might sound very obvious, but pain is a subjective feeling that we all have, right? And it's usually a part of our body. So if I have back pain, I can feel back pain. If I have knee pain, I can feel sensations in my knee. If I've got ankle pain, I can feel sensations in my ankle. If I have fibromyalgia, I might have pain widespread all over my body. If I have nerve damage or if I have sciatica, I might feel pins and needles or a change of sensation. Or it might feel like ants are crawling up and down my arm and it feels like it's on fire. When we talk about a sensory experience, that's essentially how we feel. So if you've gone to a GP or if you've gone to a specialist or a physio, one of the questions they're going to ask you is, how would you describe your pain? Now, what I'm going to get you to do now is I'm going to get Christy to pause the video and I'm going to get you to write next to sensory some of the words that you would describe your pain. For example, someone with back pain, they might say, my pain is throbbing. Or they might say, it's sharp. Or they might say, there's pins and needles. So it's going to be unique to you. So just write down 2 or 3 things. And then when you're ready, replay the video. Okay, great. Welcome back. So hopefully what you should have had is just some words that are there to describe the feeling of pain. And this is quite important for us because we want to become like an investigator over the next 2 weeks. And some of these things are going to help us, facilitators, help you more. So we've got the feeling of pain, which is the sensory in red. And now we've got the emotional experience of pain. And it's really important to talk about this. And not a lot of people talk about the emotions that come with pain. A lot of our healthcare system is designed to fix you, to do things to you, and to look to change your structures. What do I mean by that? I have back pain, I have a scan, the scan shows that there are changes in your spine. I see a specialist and they say, right, we're going to inject it. Or I see a surgeon, they're going to do stuff to take it out and fix it. So a lot of that healthcare system that you might have been through might just be looking at one part of you, and that's just the structural part of you. But we know that pain has a direct impact on our emotions, and it can be positive or negative. So there are stories of people who are running marathons, who are in the worst pain of their life, but as soon as they cross the finish line, they're exhausted, they've got pain all over, they might have stress fractures, but they have this overwhelming sense of achievement. And so for them, the sensations are a positive. But for the majority of people, when we experience pain, the emotions that we feel are negative because pain is there as a protective and it's unpleasant. So the next part of this kind of activity is I'm going to get you to pause the video again. And what I want you to do is write down 2 or 3 of your kind of key emotions that you would link with your pain. So some of the classics that we usually get would be, my pain makes me feel really frustrated, or my pain makes me feel sad, or, my pain makes me feel anxious. So pause the video now and have a go at writing down 2 or 3 of those emotions. Okay, great. So you've written down how you would describe your pain, and you've written down essentially how that pain is making you feel. Okay, and it's really important then to take a step back and to realize that this program is going to look at you as a whole person. We're not just going to look at your structure. We're not just going to look at your emotions. We're going to look at you as a whole package. And that's really important because pain impacts all of us, not just one part. Okay, awesome. Let's move on. All right, cool. So we have a pain system. So just like we have a digestive system, which does what it says on the tin, it takes in food, it takes the part that we need and absorbs that and pushes away the rest. Or we have a cardiovascular system, right, which is going to pump blood around your body and remove kind of toxins and waste products there. These are organs that we have that are working together to do essentially a job or a function for us to survive. And it's important to know that we have a pain system. And so our pain system is made up of our brain and our nervous system. So you can kind of see here, there's a bit of an animation or a cartoon, I suppose. And there's the brain up top, and then we have our spinal cord, which comes down to about here. And then we've got our peripheral nerves, and these nerves are coming out of what we call nerve roots in your spine. So for anyone who's had sciatica before, that's a nerve root problem. And these nerves and our brain are in constant communication. It's like a telephone wire where there's communication going one way, and then it's communication going the other way. So we've got nerves running all the way through into our fingertips, all the way into our toes. And our pain system, like we said at the start, is there to protect us. And so your pain system is constantly scanning 24/7, even whilst you're asleep, for dangers in your life. And that can be dangers in your body, but it can also be dangers in your environment. We'll go into this a lot more over the next 2 weeks because this is actually a lot more complex than we once thought. We once thought that if you banged your elbow and you got pain in your elbow, the pain is coming from your elbow and that's it. But we now understand that's actually not the case. If I bang my elbow, what's creating the pain is actually our brains. When we bang it, the nerves, special nerves called nociceptors, send a message up to the brain to say something's changed. There's a danger going on in the elbow. And it's our brain's job to figure out what's going on. And importantly, do we need to protect or do we not need to protect? So that's one of the first key things that you need to understand about pain, is that all pain is created by our brains. It doesn't matter whether you've had pain for a day or you've had pain for 30 years, and it doesn't matter where the pain's coming from, whether it's from an injury, whether it's from cancer, whether it's from your nerves, whether it's from an unknown cause. All pain is turned on or turned off in our brain, but it can be influenced by lots of different things. Again, we're going to go into this a lot more over the next 2 weeks, and a lot of this information might go against what you've been told about your pain or how you feel about your pain. This is the second time in this presentation that I'm going to take a step back and say, we're going to look at you as a whole person. And as you can see there, if you've read on in the paragraph, our pain systems are in constant communication and are influenced by these other organ systems in our body. For example, our immune system and our gut. They're two key players for our pain. So we know that a lot of people with ongoing persistent pain might also have ongoing gut problems or gut health issues. And also they might have problems with immunity, right? So when we look at you as a whole person, we can start to see kind of puzzle pieces come in, and we can start to make small changes, which has an overall big effect on your overall pain. Okay, hopefully you're still with me here. Next up is that a functioning pain system is very important. Now, when I'm in person with you guys, what I usually do is I'll get someone up from the audience to come and demonstrate a classic cartwheel. So if someone could please come up. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I can't even do a cartwheel. What we're talking about here is people, I suppose kids, babies that are born without a functioning pain system. You might have seen this on TV. You might have seen or heard about people that don't have any pain. And for them, because of a DNA kind of mutation, they're born without the ability to feel pain whatsoever. So if you go back to what we spoke about at the start about twisting your ankle, these people will twist their ankle but feel no change in sensation or no pain. So they won't realize what they've done until they look down and go, ah. Now, when I first say this, a lot of people go, oh, how amazing. No pain. That's exactly what I want. But the more that you think about it and the more that we go into these people's lives, the more actually that kind of viewpoint changes, because these people have very, very sheltered and dangerous lives. Every time they leave the house, it's a big threat to their life because they don't have that pain to tell them when they're injured or when they might be potentially at risk of injuring themselves. And as you can see there, it's quite shocking the fact that they have an average life expectancy, and this is in 2026, of early 20s. So we can do amazing things in medicine. We can do lung transplants. We've got all these DNA coding. We can do all these brain surgery. But if you don't have pain, the average life expectancy is only early 20s. So pain for us is really, really important. And the point of a pain program is not to take all pain away for the rest of your life, because you need pain. Pain is there to protect you, like we said at the start. And if you don't have it, just like these people, unfortunately, you live a dangerous life. So what are we trying to achieve here? Well, we're trying to achieve having a pain system that's working accurately for you. Because at the moment, if you're coming into a pain program, it's likely that you've got too much pain, or pain has become overprotective in the sense that it's stopping you from doing the things that you want to do, and it's kind of encroaching into all different parts into your life. So what we want to do is we want to almost turn down the dial of that pain system so that it's still working, but it's not overworking. And that's a concept we will call neuroplasticity, and we'll talk about that next Sunday. But it's important to know that we're not trying to get rid of all pain, because we need a certain level of pain to survive. Okay, pain is an individual experience. I hope by now that you will agree with that concept. And just like two fingerprints are not the same, two people's experience of pain is not going to be the same. If I lined up all of you in there and you had all of the same quote unquote injury or whatever you're coming in with, you're all going to have different pain experiences. And why is that? As we discussed prior, it's because we all have different brains, we all have different nervous systems, we all have different experiences, we all have different beliefs, we all have different diets, we all have different life experiences. There are so many things that go into your pain experience that makes it completely unique to you. And that's also why a lot of the treatments that try and bunch everyone together and give them the 3 exercises for back pain, or they give you the 1 tool for neck pain or the 1 medicine for everyone, those types of treatments don't work because they're not individual enough to you. So another thing to say is that you're going to be in a group environment for these education sessions, but when we talk about movement, it's going to be individual. And that's because you're going to have individual needs, which is going to be different to the person next to you. And what might work for you might not work for someone else. Okay, so I now want you to think about whether you've had an experience in your life with pain where you have felt invalidated, or whether you felt like you haven't been listened to, or whether you've had your pain downplayed by a professional, or whether you might have had a scan or medical tests which haven't shown the cause of your pain, and you've left leaving those conversations feeling more confused, invalidated, and also made to feel like, okay, maybe am I making this up, or am I making this worse than it actually is, or is this pain actually real? And it's important to say on your first day of the program that your pain is 100% real 100% of the time. You're not making up your pain. It seems silly that we have to talk about that, but it's really, really important because a lot of people come into a program like this having had lots and lots of bad experiences and therefore being very guarded about their pain experience. So we know pain is observable and measurable. So that image on the left is an fMRI scanner, and you can see it's kind of lit up like a Christmas tree. And this is someone who has their pain system activated. So someone's in the scanner with persistent pain, and it shows the areas of pain in the brain. So we really have to put this myth to bed that pain is all in your head or you're making it up. It's just not real, and it's really, really damaging for people to hear that. So you're not going to get that experience here because all of the professionals that you'll work with are all trained with this kind of modern day pain science understanding. All right then, so what we might do now is I'm going to get you to pause the video in a moment, or I'm going to get Christy to, and I'm going to get you just to chat to your neighbor. All right, so if there's a odd number, don't worry, but have a little bit of a conversation with the person next to you about what you think acute pain is and then what you think persistent pain is, because there is a big difference. And then what we'll do then is we'll come back and we'll discuss what the difference is. Okay, welcome back. So some of you might know, but some of you might not know. The key difference between acute pain and what we call persistent, which is also the same as chronic or ongoing pain, is time frame. A lot of people in the past have maybe been told that persistent or chronic pain means a kind of 10 out of 10 pain, so intensity, but the healthcare system worldwide defines chronic pain via time frame. And maybe some of you might have, got some extra Sunday points and guessed that the time frame is 3 months. And the reason for that is that as humans, 3 months is the general tissue healing times for injuries in our body. Now I say general because everyone's different, and different injuries and illnesses are going to take, more or less recovery. But there's a time where injuries in the body will heal, surgeries will heal, and pain ongoing then is less about the injury or the structures, and it's more about something else. And this is where the understanding of persistent pain comes in. So if you've had pain for more than 3 months, it doesn't matter where the pain is coming from or what's driving it, what we would then class that as a healthcare system worldwide is more linked to what we call nervous system hypersensitivity. And what that essentially means is that the longer that you've had pain, the more it's going to change your nervous system and your pain system. And what does the change mean? Well, it usually means that if you imagine your pain system has a volume dial, with persistent pain, that volume dial's turned right the way up. So that might be, for example, previously you could walk 2 kilometers with the dog, but now that the volume dial has been turned right up, you walk to the end of the street and pain comes on. Or it might be you used to be able to sit down and watch a movie for 3 hours and not worry about what's going on and just be engrossed in the movie. But now that the volume dial has turned right up, 10, 15 minutes in, you're starting to feel that discomfort and you feel like you need to move around. And there are lots and lots of experiences where the more that this volume dial has turned up, the more of an effect this pain is having. So again, this is going to be something else that we go into over the next 2 weeks. And importantly, we need to go into your individual pain experience because you're going to have questions around how does this relate to me? And so that's what's going to happen in your one-to-one physio appointment, which is usually going to be on Tuesday. And that's where we're going to listen to your whole story and we're going to be able to answer those specific questions that you have. Okay, time for a stretch break. Well earned. I bet you're sick of my voice by now. So key thing is make sure you stand up, have a walk around the room, go and get a coffee, go to the toilet, and then feel free to play this video when you're back. Okay, welcome back. And so we have spoken so far about what pain is, why we have it, and also what the differences are between having short-term pain and then pain that's ongoing, and what the potential causes might be for those two. The key thing is when we come to a pain program like this, we need to work with you to find out what works for you. This will be unlike maybe what you've had in the past, where you might sit down and you might speak with a specialist, very short sessions, and they might give you things that you need to do. Now, a lot of you might have already gone through that process and pain is still there. And so we need a different approach, and it's more of an active approach from you guys, but also from us as well. And you need to see it as we're both partners in this whole recovery experience, because you're the expert in your own pain and you're the expert in how that pain feels and how it's affecting you. That is really, really good information for us to start to put together some patterns of how your pain is behaving. And the more patterns that we have, the more things that we can change. So what we kind of talk about here is factors. What are some of the factors that are going into your pain experience? For example, sitting, if it causes pain, is a factor that goes into your pain experience. Walking, if it's painful, is a factor that goes into your pain experience. Stress might be another factor. Types of food that you eat might be another factor. Terrible sleep might be another factor. An argument with a loved one might be another factor. These are all things that you have experienced in your journey that has either made your pain better or made your pain worse. Another factor might be medication. When I take medication, my pain goes down. So that's another factor. It might be rest, might be a positive factor. Socializing with friends might be another, either positive or negative, depending on you and your experience. So as we're only in the first session today, I'm going to kind of get you thinking about some of those factors, and then I'm going to get you to pause the video and write down on your sheet of paper what you think some of the factors for you are. So just have a little think to yourself if you have noticed any of these impact your pain. So a poor night's sleep, work or financial stress, challenging relationships, your activity levels, so how much you do, what you eat or drink, or doing things that relax your mind. So they can impact your pain in the sense that it creates more pain or makes your pain experience worse, or it can make it better. So what I'm going to get you to do now, and Chrissy's there to help you if you have a problem with this, because it can be quite tricky to think of different things. If you've had pain for a while, it all feels quite normal. But to think of, are there any factors that are going into your pain? Anything that makes it worse or better? And so what you can do here on this sheet is on the left-hand side of the sheet, you can write down things that make my pain better. So that might be medication, it might be rest, it might be avoiding things. Put them down. And then on the right-hand side of the sheet is things that make my pain worse. So that might be some of the things we spoke about. It might be things that are already on there: stress, sleep, movements, overdoing it, driving. But it needs to be personal to you. Once you've done that, have a little conversation as a group of what you found and see, number one, how different they all are, but then also see if there are any commonalities in the group. And remember, feel free to share as much or as little as you feel comfortable doing. So have a go and then click play once you're ready. Okay, great. Well done. Hopefully that was a good conversation. Now, what I tend to see is that a lot of people will have some commonalities on that left-hand side and a lot of commonalities on the right-hand side, but there are going to be very specific things to you. One of our jobs over the next 2 weeks is to build those lists on the left and right-hand side, because the more specific we can make it to you and your pain, the more things that are going to go into your plan at the end of it. All right, good work. So we're almost there. This is the last thing that we're going to do, and that's to talk about the biopsychosocial model. So this is a model that looks at you as a human being rather than just, for example, your spine or your back or your leg or your nerve, and it looks at all the parts of you. So as humans, we have a psychological part, we have a biological part, and we have a social part. And all of these parts need to find balance for us to have good health. And often what happens is when pain comes along, it's going to start to change, alter, and to essentially impact all three of these areas in different ways. So our program over the next 2 weeks, as you might have already seen in the timetable, is going to be covering a lot of different topics. But all of those topics are going to come under these three kind of sections. So, as you can see there, we've got a biological side to us, and this is going to be very much about our structures inside. So this is where we're going to look at your movement. We're going to look at sleep. We're going to look at medication, because these all affect our structures. But then we're also going to look at the social side, which is going to be work, family, healthcare, beliefs, right? And you can see there, you're going to have sessions on nutrition, goal setting, planning, pacing, self-care. And then we're not going to neglect the psychological side. And so that's where we're going to look at your emotions, behaviors, your attention. And we're going to be talking through loads of really useful tools and strategies that are going to help your overall pain experience. So it might be looking at things like acceptance and commitment therapy, a bit of mindfulness. We're going to have a look at the way you're breathing, CBT, and lots of other stuff. So I guess you could say this program is a holistic look at you as a human being. And we want to find lots of small things that we can change, which overall is going to have a big impact on your pain experience. Okay, what we're going to do now is going to have a little look at this video. So if Chrissy could play this video, that'd be amazing. It's a really good, kind of quick, rapid 5-minute recap of what we have discussed so far. Okay, great. So, importantly, we're not trying to fix pain before we start building a plan. We want to work with your pain as you go, and we can start to try and minimize that pain where able. So find the factors that we can change, and then look to optimize other areas of your life despite pain still being there. Okay, so what should I do now? So have a little think about how this information has landed for you It might have gone against some of the things you've been told in the past. If that's true for you, please check out those two websites. So it's retrainpain.org and painrevolution.org. If you have been told very strong views about where your pain's coming from, and this presentation has said something otherwise, please go and have a little research into that, because that's something that we will talk about over the next 2 weeks. And then the only other thing that I would say then is get yourself in that mindset like you have been doing about what are some of the things in my life that either make my pain better or make my pain worse, because we're going to work with that a lot over the next 2 weeks. So thank you very much for bearing with me. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today, but hopefully that was useful to you, and the best of luck for you guys going forwards. My key advice for people coming in when they haven't done a pain program is to stay open and to give things a go. All right, good luck. Hopefully see you in the future.